I do not think I think Kansas City, the dynasty part is over. They may win a Super Bowl, but I think their division's too good to be a dynasty. And I'll give you an example. When Nick Saban was at Alabama, LSU couldn't get the right coach. Auburn couldn't get the right coach. Ole Miss couldn't get the right coach for most of it. Tennessee couldn't get the right coach. And he dominated. But then Georgia got Kirby Smart. And then Texas came in with Sark. And Nick Saban didn't look as dominating. Same thing happened to Urban at Florida when Nick Saban came in. Yeah, Urban Meyer was dominating. And then Nick Saban went to a great program, and then Urban wasn't dominating. And if you look at LeBron's dominance for 8, 9, 10 years in the Eastern Conference, he had to beat the Raptors and the Pacers. He would go into the other conference, he didn't have the same luck when you're facing the Warriors, right? Same with Tom Brady. Brady's great. But one of the things that was never spoken about, the Colts used to be in the Patriots division, then they left. And, he got home field advantage almost every year. Anytime he had to go to Denver, he would lose. He would struggle in Denver. Brady, the greatest ever. Denver. It wasn't the same. But because the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills for most of his stay were inept, Brady he'd go 5-1 in division or 6-0. And so Brady gets home field in cold weather, huge advantage with the best defensive coach of all time. All he had to do is win a couple of playoff games because they get a bye. Okay, so you tell me, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick with an extra week to prepare at home in Foxborough in their prime. Yeah, it's an advantage. They lost to the Giants twice in Super Bowl. They lost to Philadelphia in a Super Bowl. They weren't nearly as invincible on the other side. But part of what they did is they took advantage of the ineptitude of their division to get home field advantage. And Kansas City deserves all the credit in the world. They've taken advantage of Justin Herbert with bad coaches. They've taken advantage of Denver in a rebuild and the Raiders in a perpetual rebuild. They deserve credit for all of it. But there's never been a division with 4 head coaches that have been to a Super Bowl. I mean, the Raiders now have Tom Brady overseeing it, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, and the very competent Geno Smith. Would you be shocked if the Raiders split every series in the division? I would not.
Yeah, this is funny because this has been my exact take that I've been saying. I don't think their dynasty is over, and I'll discuss that further, but this is literally what I'd been saying from the jump. This is what I've been saying since 23. That, even when the Kansas City Chiefs won that Super Bowl in 23, it was like, it wasn't about their greatness. It was about the other teams not being good enough. And the ability of Kansas City to be consistent at a rate that none of these other teams can do. And that does not take away any credit from what the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to do and what they've been able to achieve. They, like Colin is saying, they deserve all the credit. And this is what I've said even this past year in 24, I was like, yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are not a juggernaut, but what makes them so dangerous is their ability to be so consistent, minimize their mistakes, and they just let the other teams mistake themselves into failure, into losses. That's just literally what the Kansas City Chiefs have done now for years. And when you really think about it, it especially makes sense because the margin of error for this Kansas City Chiefs team has been wildly small. Year after year after year. I mean, the one Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl that they won ended up being on the closer, a little bit further back from a score perspective, but like not in practice, we know that. But then when they beat the Eagles, came after, essentially an expiring field goal kick. The 49ers overtime keeps coming down to final plays against the Bills. The Ravens, it was a 7-point game. You know what I mean? Like it's close here, year after year. Then 2 blowout losses, 2 absolutely like extraordinarily blowout losses. And so it's and you absolutely, I've been saying this again for years, that the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to take advantage of a terrible division. And same thing with the Buffalo Bills, and same thing with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Like, he's saying that no one's really discussing this, and it's like, I've been saying that, and I said that about the New England Patriots. I said that when I was a kid before I barely even knew what I was talking about. I'm like, look who's in their division. Of course they're winning and getting all these buys and whatnot, and it's a massive advantage. And obviously Tom Brady and the Patriots deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But I do see the NFL changing right now. And I made an Eagles video on either Eagles or Commanders video where I was talking about this, where I was like, it's an inconvenience that the Commanders or the Eagles, depending on which video I made it from, that they're in their division. Like, that's massive. If you're a Commanders fan and you're really excited, Jaden Daniels, he's the future, he's about to take over the NFL, it's like, well, it's a major inconvenience that the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles are in your division right now. And same thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. You can make the argument they're going to go on a run, they're going to be great, their Super Bowl window is open for the next 3 years, but they now potentially have a quarterback and a coaching staff in the Commanders that could also build an awesome, clearly NFC Championship game reaching team. That's a massive inconvenience for the Philadelphia Eagles to have that in their division, let alone in the conference. But what separates the Kansas City Chiefs now more than anything, where even if these other teams are catching up or just getting better or closing the gap, the continuity and experience that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags have together is literally second to none. Their big game experience is second to none. The sheer volume of games that they've played at the highest and most intense, most crucial level is second to none. And yes, Harbaugh is a great coach and is the best coach the Chargers have had. And yes, Sean Payton and Bo Nix are, the best coach quarterback that the Broncos have ever had. I'm saying like during this during the Chiefs, era. Yes, right? So we can say like coach quarterback duos right now are the best they've ever been. But they're not Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. That to me is the best coach quarterback duo of all time. So can this gap close? Absolutely. Will the path be harder for the Kansas City Chiefs? Yeah, I fully believe that. But it doesn't mean that it's now just like done. Or that if the Kansas City Chiefs just get a little bit of luck thrown their way, that they now have like, oh man, like it could be their draft pick for their offensive lineman, where it was lucky that he got injured and no one picked him. And they're like, okay, this is a chance that we have to take, because if it hits, it's like we essentially got like the first or second or third overall pick, which doesn't happen because we're the Chiefs and we keep winning. And it's just like you get a little luck thrown your way, then it's like, boom. Everyone's still playing catch up. So yeah, I think things will absolutely be harder. But they still have a huge head start. For sure. And what I disagree with, and it just seems like everyone has different definitions of dynasty. Like, for me, Patrick Mahomes' entire career is the dynasty. Just absolutely. If they don't win a Super Bowl this year or next year, but then they win another Super Bowl, outside of them just coming in like last place and like not even winning the division, then sure. They were like not even reaching the playoffs. But if they like win it, right? If they win a Super Bowl in like 2028 or something, but they lose these next two or so Super Bowls or don't even reach it, like I said, they have back-to-back years where let's put it, the back-to-back years they lose in the wild card round and don't win the division. Okay? But then they win the Super Bowl that following year, that third year. It's still been a dynasty from 2018 and onward. It's still been a 10-year dynasty. It's just the way how I view it. I've been incredibly consistent about that. And which is why I said when the Chiefs were going for the three-peat, I said the three-peat doesn't really matter to me as much. Because if Patrick Mahomes doesn't get the three-peat, but then ends up winning another Super Bowl a couple years later, or another 2 Super Bowls a couple years later, I'm not going to say, oh, it was more impressive that he just won 3 squished together. If he ends up winning 5 Super Bowls when it's all said and done, but they're a little bit more spread out. And in fact, I actually, at the end of the day, think it's more impressive to if you played for 20 years and you won 5 Super Bowls, but they were all spread out between like 3 years, 2-3 years of one another. Like, you can make the argument that I actually think that's more impressive because your excellence is now more spread out. And you're showing that you're not relying on just like lightning in a pan, lightning in a bottle, flash in the pan. Like, I think, like, take the Cowboys right? Like it was like this concentrated dose of success. And then when it was time to kind of like evolve this team and kind of morph and go, they couldn't do it. They could not do it. So like, yeah, they had a great team together, and like that was it. It was just that team, nothing else. There was no sustained success at the levels that we've seen, like the Patriots do, for instance, like we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs in the process of doing now. Sustained success is more impressive to me than concentrated success. It's like let's look at Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles right now, since they obviously just won the Super Bowl. If they win another 2 Super Bowls in a row, let's say they three-peat, which I'm not predicting in the slightest bit, but let's say they three-peat, and then Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles never win another Super Bowl ever again. Not ever again, but during their time with Jalen Hurts and whatnot, right? And that's it. You would say that was an amazing window of time. Oh my God, they built an awesome team. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, that O-line, all that, right? You would say, oh my God, they built such an amazing team. That was unbelievable. And the Philadelphia Eagles fans will celebrate it, praise it, understandably, absolutely. But I see, and you will say that it was a dominant team, specifically a team. But if the Philadelphia Eagles win another 2 Super Bowls over the next, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years or something, and it's a little bit more spread out, I see that being a dominant franchise more than a dominant team. And granted, obviously, a Sirianni and Jalen Hurts don't have the same sense of a coach-quarterback duo as, say, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. You'd be like, it's that duo. That's been that great. That's why it's weird, because it's like the dynasty of the Chiefs is more about the dynasty of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And we can throw in Spags for good measure. It's not, so it's just like, it's why these conversations about dynasty and teams and it's like Nick, I saw this with Nick when he kept saying like, oh, this is the best team ever. And it's just like, well, but what does that mean? Because this team is different, so fundamentally different from who they were in 24 than 22. Because that's what Nick was saying. It's like the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the history of the NFL, especially if they three-peat. And it's just like, but what does that actually mean, though? Because this team itself didn't necessarily three-peat. Patrick Mahomes did. Andy Reid did. Spags did. Travis Kelce did. Chris Jones did. Rashee Rice didn't. Xavier Worthy didn't. Hollywood Brown didn't. DeAndre Hopkins didn't. Pacheco didn't, right? I don't know. I don't think he was on there in 22. He might have. I forget at this point. You understand? So like, that it's just like, so it's just, what does that actually mean? Same thing with Tom Brady, right? Like, and Bill Belichick when we talk about the Patriots dynasty. But that's what makes it impressive, because you could say that it was the franchise because of what they were building and over all these years of excellence. And so I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs, as long as Andy Reid, Mahomes, and Spags are there, you're always going to have the feeling that this team is going to be able to build and put something special. Will they be able to get to AFC Championship game after AFC Championship game? That remains to be seen. But even in a time when it feels like a lot of these other teams are catching up, the Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, whoever, at the end of the day, when things are getting at their most intense and the moment matters most, and you tell me which coach, quarterback, duo, or trio, when we're looking at the opposite side of the ball, who are you going to take? I can't imagine anytime soon I'm ever going to say anything but Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Spags. I can't imagine a scenario. I really, really can't. I mean, like, maybe if you got, like, because you would still have to factor in the other side of the ball. Like, even if you got, like, Josh Allen to Sean McVay, or like Lamar Jackson to Kevin O'Connell, like, I don't know, you start to, like, Shanahan and Joe Burrow or something, like, you start to put, like, the great coaches with the great quarterbacks and put them all together. It's just like, all right, well, who's a defensive coordinator? And how much experience do they have right now? Shanahan gets to another Super Bowl. You're like, I don't know. It's Shanahan again against Andy Reid. Like, again, who are you trusting to have the better game plan and to get better play calling? Andy Reid. Who do you play? Who do I trust? Let's say Mike Tomlin gets to the Super Bowl. Let's take the great defensive coaches now. Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin. Can't think of anyone else right now off the top of my head. I know there's plenty of others. They get to the Super Bowl. I'm still taking Spags. Straight up. Especially because he just has to focus on defense. I trust it. Absolutely. He's been an absolute mastermind genius defensively. So it's just like even the defensive head coaches, I'm like, you might be a better head coach than say like a Spags, but in terms of like running and worrying about the defense and building defenses and coming up with crucial stops in the most crucial moments, yeah, give me Spags. You get the ball back and now it's going to be Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I have more confidence in that than whoever's going to be the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson, Brady and Josh Allen, whoever the heck's going to be the coordinator of the year for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Like it's just that those that is something that as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are together, that's not going anywhere. And when that does go somewhere, then they're not the Kansas City Chiefs then at that point. Then then things have really changed. So then it's just like, well then, we're having a different conversation at that point. So it's like kind of becomes irrelevant. So yeah, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see what the Chiefs look like this year. I don't know. The takes for the Chiefs have been interesting. And I think it makes for a fun year. I really think them losing makes for a fun year because it diversifies the type of conversations that we're having. Before it was just the automatic, well, we know they're going to win. We know this, we know that. And there was like no pushback around any of that. Now there's pushback. Now there's resistance, which then makes it a lot more fun of a conversation. But I still think that the dominating opinions out there are still very much heavy pro positive. Kansas City Chiefs won. Patrick Mahomes won. Andy won. Spag won. So I think actually Colin's opinion is more of an outlier than anything else. Has been my personal experience looking at all the media out there. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Spags? Do you think this dynasty is over, like Colin Cowherd is saying? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.